that is literally surrounding me will make everything run smoothly. If you need anything, we've got people, if you're on Zoom, we have people watching the Zoom. So just make sure you have your hand raised, or if that's not working, send an email to Hannah. So I just wanted to do a quick rundown of how this meeting is going to work so everybody knows what to expect over the next hour and a half in terms of time and whether or not it is worth your time to stay on until the end. I believe that it is. So this is the call to order and introduction section. We have 15 minutes to spend on this, but we don't need to. We are going to do introductions briefly on the committee. And I'm going to run down the rest of what's happening too. So then we have 2 minutes for the in-kind form portion of the meeting. We have 3 action items, item 3, 4, and 5. That'll be the approval of the December 1st meeting summary. We only have 2 minutes allocated for that. We'll take more if we need it. We are moving the nomination. Right? We did have a nomination to fill a professional technical vacancy portion of this, but
we'll keep it on.
Okay,
we can still have it on.
We have 5 minutes for that. And then we have 20 minutes allocated for a discussion of the priorities list, the EPAC priorities list that we have been discussing for a couple of meetings now. We have a presentation from City of Tucson Urban Forestry. We have 20 minutes reserved for the presentation and 10 for questions. We have a brief announcement from Save Our Saguaros, for which we have 3 to 5 minutes allocated. And then we have a section for future agenda items. We do have 20 minutes allocated for this. This will not be a time for discussion, but it will be a time to sort of brainstorm what ideas folks want to see and what issues folks want to see on the agendas over the next year. We will be taking that list and then hopefully being able to use that to order effectively how we do future meetings going forward. So as your new chair, I just want to say this is a member-driven committee. It's going to be my role to facilitate these meetings. I hope everybody can try to keep themselves on track and themselves on time, because I don't want to have to do that, but I will if I have to. It's a member-driven committee. We are listening to what people on the committee want to do. We know that we are a committee of experts who all have other day jobs. So we really want to make sure that everybody's time is respected and everybody feels that their contributions are valued. Based on what came up at the last meeting, I think that it's clear that we have a lot of passion in this group and a lot of expertise to work on numerous issues. Our bylaws say that we meet 12 times a year. However, we have been meeting 4 times a year. I am proposing that we meet 6 times a year until we can fix the bylaws accordingly. It's pretty clear that 4 is inadequate for our needs. So hopefully sometime between this meeting and the next meeting, we can get this sorted out so that we can have 6 regular meetings and then increase subcommittee meetings as we need it. We have an air subcommittee and a water subcommittee. We are also endeavoring to make sure that everybody's announcements, issues, and updates are heard between meetings. So if you are aware of an event that's happening that's relevant to this committee, or a tour, or a news article that came out, it cannot be an action for discussion or legal action, but you should feel free to send that to Hannah Oden, me, my vice chair, Paula Bloomer, and we will try to figure out how to get that out to all the committee members so that we're not waiting for meetings to be educated, and then also to post it online on the PAG website so that the public can also be kept abreast of what it is that we're working on. With that, I want us to go around the in-person room and the virtual room. So quickly, limit yourself to 1 minute if possible. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you're here. And I'll start. I'm Abigail Okrent. I use she or they pronouns. I work at Pima County Department of Environmental Quality, and I'm a lawyer and a community organizer by background, but I write this there. And I'm here because I'm excited to be here, and I'm your chair. Passing it on.
I'm Mead Meyer-Welburn, and I'm the planning manager here at PAG, Pima Association of Governments, and I run the GIS and watershed program, and also the watershed planning subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of EPAC.
I'm Don Garcia, Administrative Associate with EPAC.
I'm Andrew Agnew, and I don't know if I am yet new. I am the new citizen representative for the city of Tucson. I just retired after 25 years from TOSD in May, and passion and expertise across the spectrum operating the function.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Gillette. I'm the Urban Forestry Program Manager for the City of Tucson. I'll be presenting today. I previously sat on EPAC a couple years ago. I just saw Chris pop up on the audience as well online when we both sat on for Tucson Audubon Society. So good to be back.
Good morning. My name is Brendan Lyons. I'm the new Government Affairs Director for the Southern Arizona Home Builders Association. I believe we've had a standing invitation, and so I will be attending more frequently.
Dustin?
Dustin Fitzpatrick, PAG Air Quality Manager. I'm the staff lead for the Air Quality Subcommittee.
I'm Melanie Alvarez, and I am a planning coordinator with PAG, and I'm in our watershed planning program.
I'm Jeanette Duran. I'm the Transportation Planning Director at PAG. I have the pleasure of working with Mead and Dustin and Hannah and Melanie. Also, we oversee the GIS program, transportation planning program, the environmental programs, and every other thing that we get tasked to do. But always here as a resource to all the committee members. Also, just wanted to point out that all of our committee information is on the PAG website. If you have a difficult time finding it, let us know. We can direct you towards any information that you might need. I know there's new faces and new committee members here, so either reach out to Hannah or myself, and we can we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Hannah Oden, and I'm the planning coordinator at PAG, and also the staff lead for EPAC.
Hannah's going to be calling people online in the order in which you pop up on her screen to introduce yourselves.
I'm going to start with our panelists. So yeah, you should be free to unmute yourself, but we'll start at the top of my list, which is Kimberly Baeza.
Good morning, Kimberly Baeza with Pima County Regional Wastewater Reclamation Department. I'm a Permit and Regulatory Compliance Officer.
And the next is Lynn Lovelace.
I'm Lynn Lovelace. I'm the representative on this committee from the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson. I'm a retired academic and I'm an ecologist by training, and I'm here for interest and oversight. Thanks.
Lynn, and next is Alexandra Chavez.
Hi, good morning. I'm Alex Chavez. I'm with the town of Oro Valley, and excited to be part of the committee.
Thank you, Alex. And next is Becca Kamak, or Kamak. I apologize if I'm butchering your last name.
No, that's okay. Kamak works. It's very phonetic. And I'm trying to start my video, but morning folks, my name is Becca. I'm the Director of Planning and Environmental Programs with the Tucson Airport Authority. And I believe we've sat on the committee for some time. So just looking forward to continuing that participation with you all. I'm sorry I couldn't attend in person today.
Thank you, Becca. Next is Christina McVie.
Good morning, everyone. I can't tell if the audio is on, but I'll just go for it.
It's on.
My name's Christina McVie, and I'm representing the Tucson Audubon Society. I'm the former vice president of the board and conservation chair, and my interests in particular have to do with our water situation and wildlife connectivity. I served from 2006 onward on the wildlife working group for PAG for the last RTA bond.
Thank you, Christina. Next is Katie Predick.
Hi there, I'm Katie Predick. I'm from the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. I'm a conservation scientist there. The Desert Museum, I think, has been involved with EPAC for a while, but our representative used to be Kim Franklin, and I took over for her just a few months ago. So glad to see everyone.
And next is Luke Cole.
Morning, everybody. I'm Luke Cole. I use he, him pronouns, and I am with the Sonoran Institute. I direct our Santa Cruz River program, and that looks like a lot of community outreach. And currently we're doing a lot of work to bring the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to the area to establish a Santa Cruz Urban National Wildlife Refuge. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And then Michael Catanzara.
Good morning, I'm Michael Catanzaro. I'm the backup representative for the city of Tucson, and I'm the energy manager here for the city.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Michael. And then Paula Bloomer.
Hi, I'm Paula Bloomer from the town of Marana. I'm an environmental project manager. Basically, I deal with the town's environmental compliance, 404 issues, cultural resources, stormwater, everything of that nature. And I am your vice chair.
Wonderful.
Paula, and I'm going to move over to the attendees list. So first, Chuck Stack.
Okay, hello. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
I am. Hi, everyone. I wish I could have been there in person. Greetings from chilly Florida. I'm Charles Stack, and I'm board certified environmental scientist in sustainability science consulting. I'm representing citizen representative for town of Oro Valley to our group here. And I look forward to the next get together in person, but have a good time. I'll share there.
All right, thank you, Chuck. And then next is David McAllister Romo.
Hi, good morning. My name is David McAllister Romo, and I am serving as the citizen representative for Pima County.
Thank you, David, and welcome. Next is Howard Myers.
Hello, my name is Howard Myers. I am a concerned citizen.
Howard, and then last we have Teresa Bravo.
Good morning, all. I don't know if I logged in incorrectly and I can't seem to have an option for video camera, but good morning again. My name is Teresa or Teresa Bravo, and I'm with Tucson Electric Power. I'm the government relations representative for local affairs, and I'm here representing TEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. All right, and that is, let me just double check. Let's if anybody else. Oh, I think that's it.
All right. Somebody in the audience here has their hand raised. Would you like?
Sorry, the second. Barbara Johnson, I'm the Town Automation District Planning and.
Barbara, you're on the committee.
You're on the committee. Come up to the table.
Please come up and have
I was supposed to sit over there. I don't know. I just sat down.
No, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. This is the table of committee members. So Barbara, feel free to make yourself a name tag and have a seat in front of a microphone.
I'm fine.
The name tags for everybody else. So we're gonna move on. We did that in.
Sorry to interrupt, but our audience members are allowed to introduce themselves.
All right,
as well.
audience members, would you like to introduce yourselves? Feel free to interrupt me, Jeanette.
Yeah, so it's like.
Catherine Landy Bussizer. I am concerned with all things environment, but particularly water.
Hi, I'm Melanie Lawson. I'm new to PAG doing public relations. So I'm just here to observe and learn. Thank you.
Right. And Madam Chair, if the folks that are in attendee mode would like to move to panelist mode, Crystal will send you an invite. It should pop up on your screen, and if you click accept, then you'll be able to turn your camera on. So I know there's a few folks. It looks like some of them are switching right now. Then you'll be able to use your camera.
And while we're doing that, I do want to apologize to any members of the public who wanted to participate. I thought that there was a call to audience section on this agenda. There is not. In the future, you are welcome to email us if you have comments that you want to have shared before the meeting.
Madam Chair, I'm Jessica Rodriguez has joined. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jessica, if you just want to introduce yourself real quick.
Sorry. Hi, Jessica Rodriguez. I currently work in the Intergovernmental Relations Division of Tucson Water.
That all the PAG members? Or all the EPAC members? Great. Pretty good job on the timing, y'all. Let's move on to item number 2.
All right, so this is our in-kind form. So let me minimize that so I can see. So I'll just read this real quick. The regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAC collects data on the time dedicated to meetings and activities to apply for use as matching funds for grants and federal dollars. So if you are paid with federal dollars, please let us know now. Hearing none. Time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and meeting materials. At the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will automatically calculate your time spent in this meeting. Time spent working on PAG or RTA initiatives, programs, and special projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds.
Right. That brings us to approval of the December 1st meeting summary. Did
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Okay, who was that, Chris? Yeah. Any seconds?
I second.
Right, are there any discussions or corrections that need to be made to the summary?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Paula.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no need for discussion or directions, let's do a vote on approval of the meeting summary. I guess if you're online, raise your hand. If you can raise your virtual hand or your physical hand. And then in the room, if we can just go around the members. Start with you.
No comment.
Are you abstaining? This is approval of the minutes from
I
or the
approve.
summary from last.
Sure, I approve.
Okay.
I approve.
Andrew, you're on the committee, so you're a voting member now.
I abstain because I was not a member.
Totally fair. Aye from me. And I think that's it in the room. Somebody online get us a.
Yeah.
Okay. So the meeting summary has been approved with, I believe, 2 abstentions. All right, moving right along. Hannah, this is your section.
All right, so this next item is a nomination to fill the vacancy for the professional technical interest area. Let me minimize that. Yeah, so number 10, to fill the vacancy for the professional technical interest area, which is a standing interest area for EPAC membership. So we do have a nomination. So the nomination for the organization is HDR Incorporated with the representative is Alejandro Fraijo Arce. I don't know if she was able to make it on the call. She did have a last minute conflict this morning. But I will read a summary for HDR and then I'll read a bio from Alejandra. So HDR is an employee-owned design firm that specializes in architecture, engineering, environmental, and construction services. The company has worked on projects in all 50 U.S. states and 60 countries, including notable projects such as the Hoover Dam Bypass, Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, and Roslyn Institute Building 2. HDR has its headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and has more than 11,000 employees working in over 200 offices worldwide. The Tucson, Arizona office provides water, wastewater, transportation, bridge, and structural design services, including instrumentation and control specialties. So for Alejandra, Alejandra has 4 years of experience in engineering and design of water and wastewater treatment systems and collection systems. Alejandra's experience includes design and preparation of drawings, technical specifications, and basis of design, basis of planning, analysis, and study level reports for water collection systems. She also has experience with performing and coordinating rapid small scale column testing and pilot testing for PFAS and 1,4-dioxane removal techniques, executing condition assessments on concrete and steel tanks, as well as determining the appropriate design method, equipment sizing, and selection for booster pump stations, disinfection systems, water distribution pipelines, and wastewater treatment process. up on the screen as well. But that is what I have for both HDR and Alejandra. So Madam Chair, if you'd like to call for a motion.
Yes, would anybody like to move to approve Alejandra to fill the vacancy?
Madam Chair, so moved. This is Jessica with Tucson Water.
And this is Chris, I would second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion or questions?
I'll add discussion. There's just that when you see Alejandra, thank her because this is a big position. She has committed to 2 committees, the wastewater committee as well as EPAC, in order to be our liaison. So you'll hear information from her in the future about what she hears at that committee as well.
If there's no other discussion, we're gonna do this vote the way we did the last one, starting, I'm sorry, again, with you, it was Brendan.
I approve.
Barbara?
Yes, I approve.
Ben, are you on the committee?
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself really
Yeah,
quickly?
sorry, I was having some technical issues, but thankfully only 4 blocks away. I'm Ben Elias. I am staff with the City of Tucson in our Department of Transportation and Mobility. I'm a lead planner, primarily working on bike and pedestrian projects and programs. And there's certainly that intersectionality with the committee here and in environmental equity. But I would say aye.
All right, excellent. Andrew?
Approve.
Aye. All the online folks. Or okay. Online people, please raise your physical hand or your virtual hand. All right, unanimously approved. We now have Alejandra Fraijo Arce on our committee. And we're going to move on to item number 5, which is discussion of the top environmental list that issues list that we have been working on for a couple of meetings now.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just organize myself here. So do you want me to pull up the? Yes, that would be great. Thank you. Just getting the presentation up. Okay, looks like I've controlled this. There we go. So hello again, members of the committee. So for this agenda item, I'm going to discuss the top environmental issues list for 2024, where we are in the process. Again, this is, we'll get into it during the presentation, but this is a continuation from the last meeting. All right, so I'm just going to start with a brief overview of the issues list. So just as a reminder, the issues list is something that's developed annually by EPAC. It highlights top environmental issues in the region, which are derived from members. It includes information about the issues and descriptions of ways to cover the issues, such as collaboration, information sharing, and tracking accomplishments. The issues identified are advisory and form the basis for EPAC's meeting topics throughout the calendar year. So it's how we choose presenters and what topics to bring to the committee. So you see a lot of presentations over the years, and the issues list does drive those. All right, so I'm just going to briefly cover the process that we used to create the draft for the current 2024 list. So back in October of 2023, the approved 2023 issues list was presented to EPAC at that meeting, and initial feedback on changes to that list was received from members by email. Based on the feedback and changes that were sent, those changes were incorporated into a draft by PAG staff for the 2024 issues list. In November of last year, that updated draft was sent again to EPAC and its subcommittee members for any additional feedback. Based on the comments that were received, that list was updated, or that draft was updated again by PAG staff. And then that updated draft, which was the final draft at that time, was presented to members at the EPAC meeting in December. Based on the discussion during that meeting, there was some good discussion. There was a motion to postpone the item to have further discussion on the list and refine the issues. So last month in January, we sent the issues list out again that was presented to members in December to solicit additional feedback from members and any additional changes that members would like to see to that on that list. So I do want to thank members who provided additional feedback both on this last round and throughout the process. It was very valuable and we really appreciate the time to help inform that list. So that brings us to today. February. So the updated draft that was included in your meeting packets represents additional feedback received since December. So just as a reminder, this is an action item to recommend approval of EPAC's top environmental issues list for 2024. So the updated list is included in the meeting packet. And a version was sent out earlier this week for review that shows the changes that were made since December based on member feedback and also what we heard at the last meeting. So that list that was sent out earlier this week, that has highlights and comments. So hopefully it was easier to see where those specific changes were made. So I'm just going to briefly cover some highlights. So the introduction to the list was expanded to include the role of EPAC, clarify the purpose and organization of the document, and the intention of the committee to share information, track and encourage regional collaboration efforts, provide recommendations when directed by PAG, and address gaps in environmental planning. That italicized sentence there, that was taken directly from the draft issues list that was in your packet. So it states that EPAC is a standing technical committee and provides technical review and develops recommendations on environmental studies, reports, plans, and programs within the PAG planning area, but is not a policy setting body. So that just clarifies and defines the role of the committee a little more in the introduction. The order of the priority categories and issues remained largely the same since December, but the equity and environmental justice section was moved back to the top of the list. The issues are now more organized to more clearly describe the priority topics and strategies to address concerns, which are now broken into more paragraphs for clarity. Detail was added for the high quality treated effluent and promoting shade, which includes planting trees and shade and encouraging shade infrastructure, increased regional collaboration and information sharing, and renewable energy investments for renters. The desire for shared objectives and desired outcomes is also included. Some things that we did here at the last meeting that the list now aims to address. We heard that there was a desire to fine tune the issues by having tangible items to move forward that influence environmental decisions in our region. There's a desire to see recommendations for more collaborative efforts, especially ones with multiple benefits at multiple levels, and also the desire to track achievements and have more specific strategies and actions. So this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. Or if there's any other PAG staff, it was a group effort working on the issues list. So if there's any other PAG staff that have anything to add, happy to turn it over to them at this time.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Before we bring this for a vote, I do want to see if we have additional issues or items. I know that we had a lot of conversation about this, and I know some of our new members have some ideas as well. Our goal is to approve this today, so please keep that in mind when we're like super fine tuning and wordsmithing. But if there's anything in here that you think really needs changing or improving that we can't deal with as a future agenda item, but needs to be on the priorities list, I would love to hear from all the committee members now to make sure that we all know what's in here and that we're all on board. Barbara.
I just like to say thank you. That was a lot of effort put forward by EPAC over the last month and a half. I'm very pleased. And I want to just make sure when we do vote, we're voting on the one with all the changes, right? Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I have the right.
It's in the meeting packet that was online and that was emailed out. It looks like your version has red lines on it.
Yeah, there's another one that says top environmental issues of 2024, but it doesn't incorporate all this. So I just want to make sure I'm going to be including this. I think. Nice job, guys. Thank you.
You're seeing there's the December version, and then there's the marked up version is the latest.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, just for clarity, the one in the online in the meeting packet is the one that's being voted on. The one that was sent out earlier this week, that that's the same list, just with comments in red line showing where the changes are.
Thanks for the clarification. Appreciate it.
It's important to know that.
I have two hands up online, I believe.
Andrew.
Mr. Yeah.
Yes. Andrew?
Yeah, I know this is convenient for me to say this at my first meeting, and I apologize for that, but in light of the fact that in December, the climate change conference, the UN climate change conference decided to start adopting more specific language about climate change, specifically using the words fossil fuels. I wanted to just pose the question about whether we're ready to do that, because I noticed those words are not included in this document anywhere, and I did offer to in a couple places opportunities where we could.
Can everybody online hear Andrew? Okay, I see nods.
Like me to go ahead and share that.
I would, yeah.
That would be great.
And Andrew emailed us some language that we're gonna just put up so people can look at that.
So these are two opportunities. The first one is, maybe a little bit heavy-handed, but not. I don't think it's not a stretch. It's just it's an addition. The second one is really a like for like substitution of, instead of saying decreasing carbon-based sources, talking about specifically the language that COP28 used of transitioning away from fossil fuels. Just in the spirit of trying to call out specifically the primary root cause of climate change in a way that's clear.
I think I want to take everybody's comments and then open for discussion on all of this. But if we can keep that up on the screen for now so people can read it. Was that basically cover what your comments were for now, Andrew? I don't want to cut you off. Okay. Does anybody who's participating online have any other changes or comments to share before we take up Andrew's suggestions?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my job here. I apologize.
So,
all right. I did see some hands up, but they're not up anymore. So yeah, if anyone.
You're having technical difficulties getting your hand up online, which you want to comment, please just unmute and holler at us. It's also okay to just say, nice work, EPAC staff. EPAC members and PAG staff, I appreciate this. We've got time for you to say that as well.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Chris, and I did have one issue in addition to Andrew's. Well, first I want to thank staff. This has been a process, but it's been a great process. So thank you for all your efforts. Thank you, Andrew, for your additional comments. Well taken. Regarding wildlife connectivity, I'm just being a little bit picky here with wordsmithing, but in the last paragraph, efforts to support wildlife sensitive design and development processes, including roadways, instead of should be encouraged, they should be prioritized. Connectivity is the single greatest issue we have regarding protecting the biodiversity of our region. So I would suggest that wordsmith in that regard.
So Chris, just to clarify, you just want it to say efforts to support wildlife sensitive design and development processes, including roadways, should be prioritized.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, encouraging something is, all very well and fine. We've been doing it since 2006 when it began, when the RTA started, but we haven't done a great job by just encouraging. So I think we need something a little bit more specific and directional. And I think prioritization is probably where we need to be. So I would recommend that.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? Feel free to hop on in politely, respectfully, but loudly enough that we can hear you. Again, feel free to just jump in to pat staff on the back. That's good too. Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to direct us back to seeing if anybody has any questions or comments about Andrew's proposal or Chris's proposal. And I will take my chair privileges to say that I am happy with both of them.
I also am very happy with both of them. They sound very good.
This is Kimberly. I very much support both.
That from Lynn Lovelace?
Uh,
Yeah, Lynn, looks like your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I think both of these are appropriate changes, both the addition of the fossil fuels, spelling that out, and the connectivity. I agree.
Madam Chair, if there's no further conversation or discussion, I would move to approve as amended by both of Andrew's suggestions and my own.
Ben?
Can I make one additional wordsmithing?
Yes, we will get back to Chris's motion. I think we're supposed to be calling for a second at this point, but
I withdraw the motion pending further conversation.
okay, great. Thank you. I should have said this not work. We follow Robert's rules, but if people are participating in good faith and with clarity, we will all endeavor to make sure that we get done what we need to get done. We're not using Robert's rules as a weapon. So thank you, Chris and Ben.
One additional bit of wordsmithing for your consideration under the clean air section, second sentence. I might propose regional coordination to prioritize the use of active modes of transportation, comma, public transit, and instead of discourage, maybe decenter single occupancy vehicle travel.
I'm going to push back on you on that. I like discourage. I think decenter is too gentle.
What does it mean to you?
I think I'm not mad at discourage. I would want to get rid of encourage.
Do we have encourage? Oh.
Prioritize.
Want prioritize again? Do we like the word prioritize?
I'm trying to get away from using encourage in like my language. But I'm open to thoughts and suggestions.
Well, I support you in trying to get away from encourage because encourage does absolutely nothing. I'm more interested in getting results.
How about advance? Advance has more action to it and it builds in encourage with it.
How about prioritize?
That works.
I like it.
Okay, well, it is your word, Chris, so. Does that work for you, Andrew? If we do prioritize and then leave discourage?
I'm comfortable with prioritize and leave discourage for single occupancy.
Okay, so just so people know what we're looking at here, this is in the meeting packet, page 5, clean air, the first line of the second paragraph, and it would say regional coordination to prioritize the use of alternate modes of transportation and discourage single occupancy vehicle travel. Wait a minute. We already have prioritize in that sentence. Oh my goodness, now the sentence is confusing. Hold on.
I think we're back to Luke's advance for the first.
The problem is that this is making it like a run-on. So regional coordination to encourage will be prioritized. Okay, so then what we need to do is it would be regional coordination to prioritize the use of alternate modes of transportation and discourage single occupancy vehicle travel. Scratch the line will be prioritized. Because then we have prioritized twice.
Madam Chair, this is Chris. May I speak?
Chris, yep, absolutely.
Just again, being kind of a picky wordsmither, why can't we just say prioritize regional coordination to for alternative modes of transportation to discourage single occupancy vehicle travel and reduce air pollution and I think this is too long a sentence, but I would try to I just think we put prioritize at the beginning of the sentence and maybe break this into 2 sentences.
Yeah, it's a really
yeah. So prioritize regional coordination of the use of alternative modes of transportation and discourage single occupancy vehicle travel. to reduce, to reduce air pollution and facilitate the continued attainment of air quality standards and demonstration of conformity.
All right, so you just made our sentence longer but clearer by adding a comma. I like it. Did anybody actually write that down?
He's recording too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was planning on.
Madam Chair, I would just say that I think you can actually get rid of the demonstration of conformity because, I mean, we have a small non-attainment area here that is, we have to demonstrate conformity for particulate matter. However, if you're in attainment, you don't have to demonstrate conformity. So I think in general, that is too many words that are unnecessary. We just want to remain in attainment with the air quality standards.
That's good input.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
My other suggestion is that we have in this paragraph alone, alternate modes of transportation at least 3 times. I would suggest active modes of transportation. Alternate implies they are not at all a primary choice of mobility for many people in our region. Active transportation is what I would say is widely used in transportation planning these days.
Does that include transit? Would that still include transit?
It could. So we could be more explicit and say active modes, including public transit.
It says alternate, we would put active modes of transportation such as biking, transit, carpool.
Yeah, it's halfway through the paragraph. But I would just suggest swapping out alternate for active.
I think of active transportation as walking, biking, and not as public transportation, and that's not here in here. So I think I hear what you're saying with alternate being, making it sound like it is the lesser in the alternative. But I think that active doesn't cover public transportation.
We could also use sustainable modes of transportation.
That I think is also open to more interpretation, like that it could include electric vehicles, which is not the same thing. So I would just suggest public transportation and active transportation instead of as to be lumped together instead of alternate. But then that gets rid of carpooling. Should we is this too much to put in a priorities list, and should this instead be clarified through later meetings? I'm starting to wonder if this is maybe getting more than something that we can neatly wordsmith in our priorities list.
If I can.
Yeah, Jeanette.
So I guess, yeah, I mean, we can wordsmith this a lot, and but I think the intent is there, and you know, the issues list is sort of the foundation for the topics that we bring forward throughout the year. So I don't think that this is going to prohibit us having the discussions that we want to have, the wording. If you want to, however you guys want to word it, of course, it's up to the committee, but it's not going to limit the discussion. It's not going to limit, you know, the speakers and conversations that the committee has. So.
Madam Chair, does that all this do? Because, you know, I'm the only person who sits on the Transportation Planning Committee, and I see these words here, but these topics are not really being discussed in the transportation planning context. I can tell you that. I think Ben and I are the only folks who participate in that, and I think you could back me up on that. So what I would like to see is this list actually result in action where we actually move in this direction to prioritize it in the transportation planning process. So if this list is only for the purposes of this committee and what we discuss, I think that's too limited. We really need to be looking at this list as what we discuss and also what we plan for in our region.
Right. Anybody else?
This is Chris. I support Natalie's observation and comment. I think I also understand, Madam Chair, your concern about getting into the weeds regarding this clean air segment. And I would just suggest the possibility of perhaps adopting the rest of it as amended by my suggestion and the two other suggestions that were in writing. And then I would also suggest that we perhaps ask our colleague to submit language by email on the clean air that the committee could then deal with by email to insert into the list and finalize it that way. I think we could move forward on the rest of it and accommodate our colleague at the same time. That's just a thought.
I think that's a great idea, and I will turn that into motion. So I will move that we adopt this priority list with the addition of the climate change language put forward by Andrew, substitution of the word prioritized instead of encouraged in wildlife corridors put forward by Chris, and that we request written wordsmithing presented to us by Ben and Natalie between now and the next meeting so that we can revisit the clean air portion to approve that section separately. Do I have a second? All right. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote on this puppy. We're gonna do the same way we've been doing this.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I did not realize that I would be voting on this. This is day one for me. I'm just saying this for the first time. I respectfully abstain from now.
Thank you.
Yes, aye.
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 Online folks?
Like,
Aye.
all of our panelists.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure of the online folks, did anybody abstain or did anybody vote nay? Sounds like no. All right, we have a priorities list and we will touch base between the meeting on how we get new proposed language so everybody can read it instead of trying to understand things while we're talking about it. Let's move on to our presentation. Nicole, are you ready?
Would you like me up there or?
Yeah, I think that works. So I'm gonna read the intro that we have for you and then you can get started. Nicole Gillette is the Urban Forestry Program Manager for the City of Tucson. Nicole works within the Climate Action Team to progress the resilience strategies identified by the Tucson community. She has worked at the intersection of people and the environment for over 10 years on projects ranging from community flood resilience to bird conservation and advocacy. Nicole has a BA in environmental science and an MS in geography and has lived all over the country, but has been very happy to call Tucson home for 7 years.
Thanks, everyone. I'm just gonna make sure I know how this works. Yay, technology. So yeah, sorry.
Sometimes that mic is a little quieter. You
Oh.
might end up needing to hold it.
And in the coffee cup.
I guess if I'm too quiet for online or anyone, just let me know and we'll play with the mic, move it around if we need to. So yes, I've been introduced many times now. I'm Nicole. I work for the City of Tucson. I know a lot of folks here have been working with you all for a long time, and this is a pretty, I would say, high-level overview with a couple of specifics. But if I don't cover something that you are interested in when it comes to the urban forestry program or the climate action plan for the city, definitely let me know at the end, and we can cover it in like a little bit more detail. But also at the end is my email as well as a QR code to our website. So feel free to reach out anytime in the future. And we can continue these conversations because I can talk about this all day. I only have 20 minutes, so we'll move along. So first, what is the urban forestry program for the city? It was the first of its kind when they hired me on 3 years ago. So my priority for the past 3 and a handful of months here has been to really build up this program for the first time. So we've written a mission and a vision, and we're doing this all for the first time. So it's exciting and it's a moment of change for the city. So my main goal is to increase tree-based climate resilience across the city and equitably expand our canopy coverage. Right now, we're at about 6% canopy cover citywide, and that of course is not evenly distributed, and I'll get back to that in a bit. So my main focus is to increase that canopy coverage. I now operate within a team, which is very exciting because when I first came on, I was a team of 1, and
I now operate within the climate action team and have other folks working on this as well. So my scope has somewhat expanded to basically cover all nature-based climate solutions. And so I now work across many other different pieces, but this was my original intention. I work out of the city manager's office. And so for those that are familiar with how the government works, I'm not necessarily in a department, but I do get to work across all of our city departments that touch trees in some way. And if you had asked me which those departments are on my first day, it has very much changed since then. And I pretty much work with every single city department in some capacity. So last time I was counting up, we have like 600 staff that might touch a tree at some point in their job, which is way more than I would have thought when I started this. So I get to work with everyone, which is awesome. I get to be out in the field a lot and across the entire city. And of course, trees and canopy and heat and all these issues don't just stop at the city boundary magically. So I get to also work across the entire region. So it's very excited, and I very much appreciate anyone here who's helped me and as I grow this sort of tree network across the entire city. So it's awesome. I work to implement on the staff side Mayor Romero's Tucson Million Tree Initiative. And you can think of this as sort of, while it sounds super ambitious, it is sort of our short-term planting goal. So I work both on this sort of short-term getting trees in the ground, but also our long-term sustainable canopy, thinking indefinitely into the future. I don't think I need to talk too much here about how amazing trees are and how they can really bring us together at the intersection of all of our different climate needs. We use both a sort of a overlapping circle here on science and people-based approach, where we're bringing together both the actual needs of our community, matching up with the ecological desert situation that we all live in, to really come across a holistic set of benefits that end up benefiting everyone. So the rest of, or the meat of this program is actually walking through what I've been working on for the past 3 years, which is our action plan, and just sort of a quick overview of what that is and how that kind of fits into what an urban forestry program is. The action plan was a highly involved stakeholder process, and so this covers not only what I work on in the city, but also what community partners can work on, what other government partners can work on. Because at the end of the day, only about 20% of our land is public property. So 80% of the city, and I don't know how that works across the county as well, but ends up being on private property. So Tucson Million Trees, my initiative cannot exclusively happen within the public sphere. We need to cross over and get everyone involved into this initiative. And I think that's for the betterment of all of our work, right? It really brings everyone in, builds stewardship, and also just brings those benefits to even wider scope of work. So that's what this works on. And so think of it that as like my overarching sort of guidance. And then within sort of my actual work scope, we also have brand new city standards and best practices, which I know is very sexy. We have our SOPs and all of that fun stuff internally that cover internal work. So that would cover both our staff and then any contracted staff on that front. I do consider that to be a model, and I would love to see that be adopted, more regionally as well. So we can talk about that later if you want to do that. We also have an internal team of folks I call my tree team, and we get together and that crosses all of our departments and just having discussions across department silos about how trees touch all of our work and how we can be better working together to do all of this as well. What else am I forgetting about? What else is going on with this? Anyway, so this is covering not just my work, and then I'm not going to dive into every single section here, but again, this is available online, and I'm happy to give this full presentation maybe at a different point. The way we designed the action plan itself is that it's a presentation, but also a report, and also functions as like individual sections. So people feel free to steal this, feel free to steal parts of it, take it and adapt it to your audience. We are doing a year of outreach after this, and the intention is to do like a train the trainer model where this presentation can be taken, we can give the information out to folks, and then anyone can take any part of it, present it to their HOA, present it to their committee. It's very much intended to be utilized. So I think I mentioned it was a extensive stakeholder process, took us about a year. The actual document itself was funded by the State Department of Forestry and Fire Management, so a big thank you to them. They were involved in the planning. We had a formal stakeholder committee, but also this was informed and reviewed by a lot of technical experts, a lot of staff. So many people donated their time to this, and I really appreciate it. We're pretty proud of it, and just a huge thank you to, of course, someone who did not list herself here, but Ann Audrey was our contractor, and if you worked with her, you know she's amazing and brings her expertise to everything she touches. So this is on, you know, her work, and I don't know why we don't credit people who actually write the thing in these documents. So these are all 9 actions that are covered within the actual document itself with 2 appendices. I'm again not gonna even try to go through all these today. And I anticipate that this will very much be a living document. This is just our first run at this, so consider it to be version 1, and then we will adapt as we need. And as we learn how this all works and how we try to implement things, all that fun stuff. The appendices will also grow, and those will mostly probably live as online resources. We're hoping to build this out as like an interactive online tool so people can click through, take the bits that they need and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to quickly run through the actual meat of this. And again, I don't have the time to give the actual presentation, but the intention of this whole document, again, is to grow an equitable canopy across the city. And that sort of underlies the entire process of this. And again, I don't think I need to sell trees to this audience, but this really touches way more than I think people would just typically think of like a tree single footprint. We're touching every aspect of city work in some way. Again, at this time, I think we all realize, I mean, today is beautiful as the exception, but we need trees sort of now more than ever. We continue to smash heat records every year. We are, you know, arguably in a new state of normal drought, just ongoing. And so while, you know, the world gets hotter, while we all experiencing this, our canopy is also shrinking. So at the time when we need trees the most, we're having fewer and fewer of them every year. So it's a problem that we're trying to tackle, this very wicked problem with a resource that continues to shrink. So not only do we need to be continuing to investing in this, but we need to be ramping up our efforts, right? So now's the time for trees. As I mentioned, equity spans the entire program and all of my work. We all know that it's getting hotter, but it is not getting hotter equally across the city, and the impacts are certainly not being felt equitably. And so, and you can think about all of these things as compounding impacts. So when it's really hot and you want to be under a tree, you're not experiencing that evapotranspiration benefit of that cooling. You're also weakening things, which is getting into the weeds, but you're weakening like your concrete systems, your infrastructure lasts less long. So not only is this a literal sort of cooling impact, but the impacts are then borne compoundingly through, you know, across our entire city and touches again so many different aspects. So all of my work, as well as just a million trees, as well as the Storm of Shade program, we utilize this tool called the Tree Equity Score, and we're actually rolling this into a larger city equity tool system. And so this might change in the future. But this takes into account what you might typically think that goes into a equity score, and then includes canopy and heat vulnerability on top of that. And I don't think this is a map familiar to most people. This looks very similar to like our pollution maps, our air quality maps. We know where in the city needs treating most, and that's where we're going to be focusing our investment. Again, I don't think I need to sell this to anyone, but we have a lot of current work and programs that are engaged in this, and it spans well beyond this list. So this is just a snapshot. We all know trees have many benefits, and you could call these co-benefits, you could call them ecosystem services, what have you. But I like to think of these as, it's not just sort of a snapshot of, oh, your cooler is under a tree, or you can pick a fruit, but this is sort of holistically connecting us back to what would have been a functioning ecosystem, right? We are all part of an ecosystem, whether you think of yourself or not. And within this, the City of Tucson ecosystem, trees and people are an integral piece of that. So whenever you're walking your dog under a tree, walking to the bus, whether you're parking your car under a tree, what have you, each of those pieces all work together, and with trees brings us closer to a more resilient functioning ecosystem in the face of climate change. So all of these benefits and more, of course. All right, so this is actually action 1, and I'm not going to jump into the details of each of these actions. You can kind of just get a quick scope. But I put this first on purpose because all of those benefits I just listed are true of mature, healthy trees. So I can plant as many baby trees as I want. And unfortunately, the average urban tree only makes it to about 6 years. And when I hear something like that, I'm like, what is the point? What are we doing? Okay. So your mature, healthy trees are the ones that are going to sequester carbon. Trees are not carbon neutral in the city until about 15 years old. They are actually going to give you your shade and water capture benefits. So all of those things are not going to apply to your young saplings. So that's why this is action one, and when we be focusing both on our mature canopy as well as growing out new canopy. So that applies to all of this. The other piece that I just want to point out is, yes, this applies to many community partners, but also we do take accountability in here, and I have some specific to-dos lined out here, and all of these things are being either actively worked on or completed at this point. So we're actually doing the things that we say we're doing. Same here. Many people are familiar with our existing sort of scope of work. I'm going to skip through for the sake of time. I skipped to action 9 because, again, I think I just want to point out that anyone can be involved in this. And so I work with a huge range of partners, and everyone has their own special piece of this. And I really appreciate all those folks because, again, I've been a team of 1 for 3 years. So none of this would have happened if a lot of other people had not been really engaged and passionate and committed to this work. And I don't know about all of you, but I really feel that energy across the city right now. People are excited to be involved in climate action in all scopes, especially tree planting. I mean, it's so tangible. You can literally get your hands dirty. So it's something that can really bring us all together. And I think this is a really exciting just sort of moment in City of Tucson history time. Again, everyone. I wanted to just mention, because I know there was some interest in this committee, is sort of my larger scope. I now work within the climate action team, and our job is to implement Tucson Resilient Together, which is the mayor and council adopted climate action plan. And our current work is of course based around FY24, and we're actually tackling 70 of 100 of the 40 actions, which kind of freaks me out. So I'm not going to think about that too much. We have committed to do a lot in the next year. Something relevant to this week, if you've been invited to Saturday's Heat Summit, this is certainly not the first time we've talked about heat in the city. We've been doing that for decades. It is the first sort of interdepartmental, interjurisdictional gathering to discuss what might be an actual heat mitigation strategy. So that's on Saturday. It's going to be something very important. This is very practical, right? When we face a heat emergency, what are we doing? So that's what the Saturday is, and that will hopefully result in an actual document with strategies by the end of the year. I think we said 8 months. Yeah. I think I've actually now touched on all of these, so we're good. This is what we're continuing to work on. We do have unprecedented federal funding coming around right now, which I know we're all involved just in some way, but the whole point of that is that kind of now is the moment. There's funding for it, so let's do things. This is my email me anytime. That's the link to the full action plan. There's a short version, a long version, English and Spanish, so feel free to take any version of it that you want. Utilize it, reach out if you have questions, and I look forward to working with you moving forward with you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for helping keep us on track on time. We have that 10 minutes for questions. Barbara.
I have a question. And first, thanks to PAG for bringing you to the podium, and great presentation. Couple questions. You mentioned 6% coverage right now and the 1 million trees. And I'm glad that you skipped to action 9, because I will just call you privately on that one, because I can see a lot of things that the district would be interested in. But for those two, do you actually have targets to move from 6% to something else, or do you have target? And how far along are we on the 1 million trees?
Yeah, that's fun, right? I mean, actually tracking gets, I don't want to, give you a lecture on data management, but so yes, there are a lot of different pieces to this, right? And on one hand, I have sort of the trees that like I'm literally tracking each individual tree, and then we sort of have the bigger like what are our metrics moving forward, and that tends to be much more difficult to actually like track individual progress on, right? I think technically in the Tucson 1 million trees goal, we're like 100,000 trees in. Again, mostly because I can put baby trees in the ground every day if I wanted to. We could have hit that goal very easily. I care about those trees actually growing into mature trees. So we needed some foundation to actually have, again, best practices, planting standards, mechanisms to water them, all of these things that would actually help them get to maturity. And we're now at the point where I can start being more meaningful data capture. And $1 million sounds like a lot, but if every person in Tucson were to plant 2, or every person in the region were to plant 1, we would hit that really quick. And so to get this, so 6% is where we're at. 15% is the American Forest recommended desert city canopy coverage, and that's what's taken into account in the tree equity score. So how close your neighborhood is to 15% canopy coverage. We have parts of the city that are at 30%. We have parts of the city that are at 0%. So how you reach that canopy goal is you want to across the entire scope of the city. But I'll say this is not just figuring out to get to 15%, which roughly includes some attrition. So the people that say, oh, millions, too much, I'm like, please, so
Thanks.
go ahead and get on board. Yeah.
Go in perspective.
Yeah.
Nicole, with the city of Tucson, we have the tree equity score. Is there something that parallels that at the county or region-wide level?
I certainly don't want to speak for the county, so yeah, I don't know if someone else wants to jump in.
And to speak to that, we for those who are newer on the committee, we've presented about it in the past, but in 2012, PAG started an interactive map. We called it our Green Infrastructure Prioritization Tool, and then the city was the first one to take us up on using the tool, and it was much simpler than the it's American Forests that you're using now, but it was above average heat and below average canopy was the formula that our committees kind of were interested in, and the city started at their 10,000 tree campaign based on that, and then county ended up when they did the Paris Accord resolution using the tool to set their county goals, but just for county properties. Haven't heard an update since then, but they did set a general goal as well for the whole region of prioritizing those same areas. But since then, we added a lot of demographic data to the online map. It's called the Climate Resiliency Tool now. It has a lot more information on it.
Would be nowhere without your data, right? So we have our own tool that utilizes PAC data. So again,
Provides the data for the whole region. And that's where, we also created a Green Stormwater Infrastructure Plan thanks to an ADQ grant. And that's where we're finally able to publish those numbers about what our percent canopy is across the region, how many trees using our LiDAR data. So those are the kind of tools we can provide for the jurisdictions to make decisions on.
I had a question I'm curious on. You mentioned water a little bit. Of course, we're talking about water in the community. How much water is being allocated to plant 1 million trees? And obviously there's irrigation systems come up at my own home. I got irrigation problems from time to time. How do you track all that when we can data management and tracking all these trees as well as the irrigation, and who's in charge of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge ongoing question, right? And I skipped the entire middle of the action plan, but there's a huge section that's dedicated to water in there. And not only how to sort of think about like very resilient water use for these trees, but also how trees fit into the water system as a whole. I think a sort of false dichotomy we can easily find ourselves into is like, oh, it's landscape or water. And I think that's sort of a misdirection from what our larger water problem actually is. And trees especially fit into our hydraulic water cycle. That's a much longer answer to your question, but within a functioning ecosystem, you will have a better sort of functioning, I don't want to like, I'm not a hydrologist, like water terms, but you're gonna have a better functioning water capture system and water utilization system, and on a big scale where you have a functioning canopy, you actually have a functioning rain system. So it will rain more where you have a fully healthy forest. And so this is sort of microcosm to big cosm, but I'm always thinking watershed level too. That's my background, my work. So a tree in the city may seem like one water use, but you have to put that into the entire context of a functioning urban forest, which in turn means a functioning hydrology system as a whole. And then just to your point about like tracking water use, we have a couple active research projects on what are the actual water demands for urban trees in our city, and we tend to very much over irrigate our desert. We want that sort of lush year-round but especially our native trees have amazing drought adaptations that we can be function within a much lower water budget than I think typically allocate towards our. So there absolutely are conservation measures that can be put in place to make sure that we're being hyper resilient with our water. But I think on the other end, a water drop invested in a tree is very well spent. It's going to give you those benefits back. Some amount of fold, indefinite fold. Probably close to time.
We have about 5 more minutes for you, and we have a question from online.
We have two. So Luke and Christina have their hands up, and Luke is at the top.
All right, Luke.
Hey, Nicole, always love to hear updates on this. It's just such a fantastic initiative. So 2 questions. One, in reaching 1 million trees, are we reliant primarily on Trees for Tucson as the main sort of vendor and source of this? If so, do they have the capacity to reach, provide like 1 million trees in the time frame that the mayor has identified? And then second question, just last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, there was somebody out front who was at my house, just sort of not in the yard, but like sort of checking on some trees that I planted through the city's program. And they said that they were going citywide, I think, to sort of verify the number of trees. I'm curious if there's a status on that as well, which might like refine some of the numbers that we're working on.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. You actually hit on two other sections of the action plan. So one is tree supply, as you mentioned. I think we planted a tree in the city. There aren't many places to buy as the tree, especially a desert tree. And so right now our supply chain is an issue, and that's actually part of the grant to have coming up. But we have a lot of capacity, with internal capacity, to grow both our tree supply, but also sort of how we rely on our private sector partners to meet this goal as well. So those are ongoing conversations with nurseries. Tucson Kind of Beautiful is of course our main project partner for Tucson Trees. We are working together on a site at the Los Reales Sustainability Campus, which is the Tree Center. There are about 1,000 baby trees there right now, but we have a lot of intentions to grow that as well. So there's work on our end to both internally bolster up our tree supply, but then also region-wide about appropriate tree species, appropriate mechanisms for counting and planting, and all of that fun stuff. So again, it takes everyone, but we are addressing that. And then your other question was about the tree inventory. And so we have an active project going on right now to inventory all of our trees. And that's important because it's very difficult to go in the right direction if you don't know where you are. And so we've never really had a full scope on how many trees do we have, where are they, who manages them. And so this will get down into, I'll be able to see every public tree individually and work orders against it. That's going to be about data management. Very granular to very big. But yeah, 2 good questions.
I think we had one more question on
Yeah, 2 now. So Christina Mickey is first, and then Lynn Loveless.
Okay. And Natalie.
Hi, Nicole. This is Chris. Congratulations, Nicole. Look at what you've done. This is remarkable, and I know you're giving Anne and everybody else credit, but hats off to you, lady. This is great. Couple things. One is just an observation. While I fully support your efforts in particular for the health and safety of the residents of Tucson and Pima County, the bigger picture of having a tree in the region is really a important one too. And limited as you are in terms of where you can plant them on public lands and the need to work with private lands and not wanting to crowd them, I would just offer this. The City of Tucson's water department controls a number of acres in the Abra Valley, over 22,000, where water rights were retired. And thanks to that, we have clean water in the Abra Valley that hasn't been contaminated. And so that's the water source we need to protect. But one way of doing that, with just a little permaculture, low-tech, low-cost investment, would be to plant trees on some of those lands, some of which are already becoming mesquite bosques, since some of these lands were retired in the 70s, 80s. You have 6 foot, 8 foot mesquite bosques forming out there that could be enhanced, and you have other areas where they could be developed. But that would also require managing the buffalo grass better. And then the same is true of the county, who also has under flood control a number of acres in the Brawley Los Robles system in the Altar and Avra valleys. And those lands are frequently adjacent to one another. So you have multiple stacked benefits in enhancing the vegetation and the carbon capture, et cetera, out there. And then my second point is, I noticed that one of your points as you rush through this, I really appreciate how detailed this is. I want to learn more about it. But one of those was looking at a potential ordinance. And I just, I wondered if you are familiar with the work that's happened in England, where they have heritage trees, where they have an ordinance that, people, when a heritage tree is identified, folks can't just go cut it down willy-nilly. I mean, they're very, very much advanced beyond where we are at this point. But I just wondered if you're familiar with any of the stuff that's gone on over there in terms of developing a potential ordinance. Thank you.
Yeah, again, this starts getting dangerous because I can talk about all these things a long time. So I might just say yes.
Okay, well, that's good enough for me, Nicole. Carry on and thank you.
Okay. So I want to take Lynn's question, Natalie's question, but if we can keep them short and we can keep them to questions, and people please do follow up with Nicole by email. So I'm going to give us another 2 minutes here. So Lynn, if you can go quickly.
Her hand went down. Lynn, did you have a question?
Sorry, I didn't unmute. Yes, I wanted to thank Nicole. I'm really impressed at the progress you've made in the last couple of years. One thing that occurs to me when you were showing the aerial maps is that hardscaping is a real problem for planting trees. Some of the places that could really use trees are covered in cement. And I wondered whether you've considered strategies for breaching those in parking lots and areas, and how that might fit into your distribution of trees where they're most needed.
Yes, our heat island issue and concrete issue, and you're pushing me ahead to where I am. Yes, it's a very pressing problem. I've been, of course, focusing on the low-hanging fruit sites, which is why we need our inventory done, where you can identify existing planting locations that you can use without cutting into a lot of concrete. But yes, it is. And that's something like Mead and I have been talking about a long time about our land use land cover data map and being able to prioritize spots that, yeah, you can maybe do like a big investment concrete overhaul and really get those maximum benefits. A standing request I have to all of our staff departments that's met with some success here or there is literally if anyone's ever touching concrete, so think about all of our paving projects happening right now, if they're doing any kind of overhaul that involves removing concrete, or even doing work on concrete, if we're able to sort of overlay our work on that sense, it saves me so much money to be able to go in when concrete's already being worked on. So I guess that's answering anyone here. If you're working on concrete, let me know. That's the best time to do it when someone's already digging up a road. And I'll stop there.
I have a quick question. We have food security issues in this region too. So do food forests fit into this, and how do food producing trees fit into your plan?
Yeah, that's maybe actually my favorite part of this. So that's a big piece of my federal grant that's coming down, and we're thinking about species, I think especially in neighborhoods where we can really maximize those food producing benefits of trees. We're very lucky in our Sonoran Desert that most of our native trees are food producing in some ways. So you sort of get the benefit of native tree, both for biodiversity, but then also you get all the benefits out of it. So you have those sort of maybe non-traditional food sources you might think of, or maybe literally traditional food sources.
Yeah.
And then there is space, I think, for thinking about, food producing trees that can fit into more of a culture type situation where you're planting something that maybe isn't native, but could function within maybe medium. And you could reduce water needs in that way, you could have soil fixed benefits. And you could plant more things that would have a high intensity of food production. My last plug is to the food bank, who also got a big grant coming down. And their project is specifically on this, and their model has been to plant a mesquite tree and chiltepine together wherever they can. That's a very interesting ecosystem function, but also creates two very delicious things. That's just another possible model of doing this. So.
Real quick question. What's the budget allocated from the region? Not grants coming in, but that we are allocating toward this goal?
Yeah, so right now, 2 million trees has no public funding. That's all private fundraising through the mayor's office. It's just something beautiful. So that's all privately funded dollars. My budget is my salary, and then I have a federal grant. So we're operating with existing dollars.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break, Nicole. Please, everybody, feel free to get in touch with her. I know that we could keep her around for a lot more questions. We have a brief presentation that is information. I don't think we're going to have time for questions. By Katie, don't know how to pronounce your last name. Friedrich. Save Our Saguaros. Katie's online, right?
Yes.
All right.
It looks like she's unmuted.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Just really super briefly, some of you may know the Desert Museum every February has what we call SOS, or Save Our Saguaros Month. And it's really focused on invasive species, and we try to do a lot of public education and public engagement to talk about the link between invasive grasses and desert ecosystems, as well as risks in terms of fire. Our big kickoff event that we have at the beginning of the month is this Saturday. It'll be on A Mountain. We have events all through the month. And in general, if anyone you ever come across is interested in becoming a volunteer and doing bufflegrass removal, our website, bufflegrass.org, has listings of pull events that are set up, and they're all over the area that people do throughout the year, but really more in the cool months, of course. And then one additional thing we have with our Save Our Saguaros Month this year that we're really excited about, our invasive species coordinator, Vianney Avilia, has created this project to do a mural on a piece of old wall at A Mountain. So we're going to have community painting, and it'll be a big community event. And if anyone's interested in seeing that, our mural revealing event is going to be March 9th on A Mountain. So just wanted to share with you all that that's going on at the Desert Museum this month. Thanks.
So much. Thank you for keeping that to 1 minute. Does anybody have one question who hasn't spoken already for Katie? Okay, none. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to future agenda items. So again, this is a chance for everybody who's on the committee to just throw out ideas for things that you think we should take up sometime this year. This is not a discussion time about it. We do want to make sure that we're paying attention to everything. Based on our previous conversations at the December meeting, it sounds like there is interest again in having this committee issue clear statements of priorities beyond the priorities list. This is kind of what I was pushing back on super wordsmithing that, but actually having resolutions of the nature that this committee used to do in the past that would provide clear direction to PAG and clear direction to regional partners that can be used in grant applications that have clear policy positions and priorities by us. We are, a committee of experts. So our positions on various issues in import. What we would like to do in future meetings is continue to have these wonderful presentations like the one we had from Nicole that are directly related to issues that we want to work on, that we might want to see resolutions on. I'm thinking that it would be productive to have a presentation the meeting before whatever meeting we actually discuss the resolutions. So this is recorded, people can watch it, people can digest, and then we can have a conversation if it is something that we need to have a resolution or a clear suggestion or position statement on in the committee. So what we're trying to do right now is just take your ideas of, hey, what is it we need to be working on? What is it that we need to have clear direction from EPAC on? What is it that we think we need to be educated on? I imagine that this list will provide us with ideas beyond anything we could reasonably cover in the next several years, and that's great. Give us all of your ideas. We will narrow it down according to resources, our actual authority as a committee, interest and priorities. So this is just open. We're going to take notes. I'm going to take notes. I assume that Hannah's taking notes. I'm going to start with really boring future agenda items. I would like to add to every agenda a section for member and staff announcements, so that people can make announcements about upcoming events, and that's just set in the committee every time. I'd also like to see that as something we can share in between meetings, as I said previously. And if plausible, reasonable, and workable, I would like to add a call to the audience or portion for the public to be able to speak towards the end of the meetings. Limited speak, not like Board of Supervisors call to the audience. So those are my items. We can just go around and start with maybe people who haven't spoken first. If anybody has something to add, whoops, we're listening, we're whiteboarding your ideas. Anyone online?
Yeah, so Luke Cole has his hand up.
Spoken before, but go for it, Luke.
I can hold my tongue for a little bit to let somebody else go quickly. I alluded to this at the beginning, but Sonoran Institute and our partners at the Wilderness Society have been working with federal officials, elected Senate officials, and all the way down to local officials and stakeholders on establishing a federal presence through a Fish and Wildlife Service Urban National Wildlife Refuge for the Santa Cruz River. This is about 2 years in the making, and we're seeing a real uptick in federal interest in this project. I would welcome the opportunity to brief EPAC on this project, just to let you know what it is, what it isn't, and to work toward a resolution on that. This resolution, by the way, is one that we're doing with Santa Cruz County, with the San Javier District, and with Pima County as well.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Natalie?
Spoke already. I don't necessarily have a resolution related suggestion, but I will just say that the Pima County Department of Environmental Quality is working to wrap up our Priority Climate Action Plan, which is due to EPA on March 1st. And we've done an extensive amount of stakeholder engagement, including a public survey, business survey, as well as working with 5 community-based organizations to reach low-income and disadvantaged communities. We received a considerable amount of input that I'd like to share with this committee. And even though our plan is due likely after or before the next meeting, it's not the end of our planning. We will then be working on moving towards a comprehensive climate action plan. So I would like to try to keep this committee involved in that process and provide that input and discuss how we might move forward with the comprehensive plan.
Else?
Christina McVie has her hand up online.
Chris?
Madam Chair, I would really appreciate, and I think it's important for us as a community to get an update from the experts, and I think Kim in particular at the Desert Museum, on the extent of bufflegrass, best management practices, stink net, these exotic invasive species that threaten the public health and safety, houses, private property, lives. You know, if they go up in flames, it's all over. And it occurs to me that there's been a lot of discussion in various different pockets of the community about how best to approach it. But I think the Desert Museum is kind of housing that information right now and looking at strategies and helping people and assisting them. I'd love to get an update from them on the status of bufflegrass and invasive and stink net and how to address it.
Great, thank you, Chris. Barbara?
Chair, I think it would be nice in 2024 to have an agenda item on equity and environmental justice, and maybe some inspirational activity that has moved the needle a little bit there, that we all can learn from.
Thank you, Chris. And Barbara, I'm going to jump in here because that was my other item that I would like us to have a presenter from an environmental justice, social justice group, not a governmental organization. One of the groups that sues our governmental organizations, because environmental justice is a social justice grassroots-based movement. So I am looking to see if we can get a presenter from one of these groups, probably not someone local, just to explain the history of environmental justice movement as a racial justice movement and what that means for us as, I think, primarily in this context, government and regulator folks, and how that works with our prioritization of environmental justice as a cross-cutting issue and lens through which we're examining everything. The tree conversation we just had there are a lot of ties to issues of equity and wealth and renting versus home ownership. And so I would like to see a presentation about that too, and possibly some further action. So thank you. Anybody online have a hand up?
Kimberly Baeza.
Just a quick comment on that, Madam Chair. I know a gentleman by the name of Victor Boleg. He's new to his position at the YWCA, and I think he'd be a fantastic person to speak on the topic. I can put you in touch with him if you desire.
Sure, thanks, Kim. Anyone else?
Paula, your hand is up.
Madam Chair, I don't know if this is the right venue for this, but a lot of times when I hear these presentations, like Katie's on the buffalo grass and Save Our Saguaros, sometimes a jurisdiction such as Marana has a hard time doing large, sweeping ordinances and things like that. But we do have social avenues where we can get information out to the public on things like the buffalo grass pulls or information on invasive species, things like that. I'd really like to look at how we can come together as a regional group and disseminate similar information, because we're all having the same issues in these places. So I don't know if it's really something for one of our meetings or maybe a side project or something like that.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. People are going to keep calling me Madam Chair. So I'm writing that down as sort of a centralized information dissemination or effective information dissemination on environmental issues that affect the region. Does that sound kind of like what you're asking for?
Yeah, so that we're presenting clear, when we're doing public outreach, clear and similar information so that people are getting the same information.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Mead and then Barbara again.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
No, please.
Her hand was tentatively up.
Just to add to Paula's, in the past, there was an interest in cohesive regional messaging for stormwater. So a stormwater working group was formed under the Watershed Planning Subcommittee. And Paula's been on that group for quite a while as well. But it's an example of a format where there can be deeper discussion about shared messaging and shared imagery, which increases awareness and recognition of the issue.
Barbara, and then I'm going to put Dustin and Natalie on the spot if no one else has anything.
You bet. I think it would be nice to see something on the agenda in 2024 about how well we're doing. Things like the regional connectivity and, Nicole's presentation resulted in such and such. Just make a little celebration about the good things that are coming out of this issues list and what we did. So maybe towards the end of the year.
Celebration. Great. Natalie and Dustin, I know we want an updated presentation at some point on the greenhouse gas measures. If you want to tell us what that's going to be. Justin or Natalie?
The federal greenhouse gas performance measures, they're coming to, yeah, that plans to go through the air quality subcommittee. Review the metric calculations available to MPOs and then a potential reduction target.
And that is something that you think you're going to have. You said that PAG has to get done by the summer.
Yeah, our deadline is July for regional council to approve this.
That go then from air to EPAC and up the chain?
Yeah, they'll need to go air quality subcommittee back.
Do we have a date for the next air quality subcommittee, or do we know approximately when that will be held?
We're looking at March.
Yeah, Andrew.
I have a couple, and these may not be within the
That's okay. Throw them out.
brainstorming. So I'm interested in the whole concept of free to use or public transportation that we are currently enjoying here in Tucson, and understanding the financial and legal considerations behind supporting and maintaining free to use or public transportation. And then I'm also interested in understanding the possibilities for incentivizing, normalizing, and streamlining the purchase and installation of heat pumps as a replacement for methane gas powered furnaces.
Else have any burning items that they'd like to see? I'll just throw one out there. Just, I think it's way outside of our purview. But no, I'm not even sure how to phrase this. So I was a public defender for almost 8 years before I came into this current role, and I'm very interested in seeing how our money going into a new jail and more incarceration affects the rest of our environmental issues. I don't know what that looks like for EPAC, but it is a regional issue and it is a resource allocation issue. It's money, it's concrete, it's human resources. It's gonna just put new jail on our large list, and we can just think about that or not.
I could add, since Dustin was talking about air quality for watershed planning subcommittee, we tend to focus on even more technical issues. So I was thinking with your go ahead that we could cover PFAS in more detail there, and of course invite EPAC to attend. But we have several great speakers that have been brainstormed, like up to 5 different related topics. So it would be a full PFAS agenda. So I'd like to do that this spring, as long as that's okay for it to be in that focused group.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, this is Chris Mead. Would you also include the 1,4-dioxane and TCE in the update, or just PFAS? Because I know the new treatment plan is supposed to accommodate both 1,4-dioxane and PFAS, correct?
Yeah, we could, usually every time we ask Tucson Water to speak about it, they start with that.
Great. Well, let's just include all 3 of them updates and then focus on PFAS, of course. But I mean, that's the big problem. But yeah, that'd be great.
I think the discussion was looking at wastewater, stormwater, and then what the community can do as well, since we hadn't focused on those areas yet.
So I was shooting for us to be able to adjourn by 11:20, so we're doing well on that. But I want to know, I want people to know what to expect next and how we follow up. So first of all, the future agenda item brainstorming doesn't end when the meeting ends. You are welcome to email. I would say email me and Paula and Hannah. Does that work for you, Hannah? Okay. And we'll make sure that information gets shared with the rest of the committee and the public as necessary, and that we sort through everything and try to arrange nice future agendas. if this new Thursday morning meeting time works for folks, and I assume for everyone presently here it works, I assume that the people who can't make it didn't make it. Please let us know, by the way, if this is not a great time for you. It seems to work for PAG staff, so we'd like to be able to get back to everybody with proposed future dates. And I know PAG staff was looking into the next date, but I don't think we have a proposed one yet. You guys checked your calendar yet?
Yeah,
Putting you on the
so,
spot?
yeah, no, it's not a problem. So, yeah, I mean, our meetings are always subject to all the other meetings that are going on at PAG, and our resources, our crystals back there. So we do try to, balance all of our different committees and subcommittees and technical advisory group meetings. So yeah, we do, we will reach out to you. Obviously Hannah will, or do a doodle poll. Typically, we don't do meetings on Fridays. One of our member jurisdictions doesn't work on Fridays, so we try to accommodate that. But yeah, we'll bring them through and make sure that we've got the resources available.
Let's put not working on Fridays on our future agenda issues. Right. People work 40 hours a week. It's not good for the environment or our souls. I'm actually not joking. I'm going to put limiting work weeks on here.
Oh,
yeah.
and for the record, Madam Chair, PAG is open on Fridays.
I know, but maybe
we're not the culprit, but
no, it's not a culprit. It's a goals thing. So we will get back to folks with future meeting dates so that everybody knows what to expect. Again, I apologize for any hiccups. This is my first meeting as chair. Just want to make sure that everybody feels that they can reach us in between. Yes, Natalie.
I mean, I don't know if this is what you're saying, but it would be nice if we could, and we have a frequency change here, right? It was going to from 4 to 6. Is that correct? Or 5? Or
you missed the
Sorry.
beginning, but our bylaws say 12. And we've been doing 4, so we're going to try to do 6, and then we'll deal with, if we need to fix the bylaws, we will deal with fixing the bylaws.
So if there was a way, since everybody's so busy, to just have those planned out for the entire year, that would be ideal.
That is the goal.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Yes.
So the committee guidelines that are posted on the PAG website govern when these meetings are happening. So EPAC is a quarterly meeting, so it'll meet 4 times. And agendas are an administrative function of our agency. So it is upon us as PAG to put together an agenda. So we work with our chairs. EPAC has the good fortune of having an issues list that does shape the agenda setting. So although there's folks that would like to meet more, we are limited to quarterly. We do have the subcommittees. I will also say that we have accommodated in the past if there's a reason to bring the committee together for a specific action item, we can always do our best to accommodate that. But it is an administrative function of the executive director of PAG. So I don't want there to be an expectation that there's going to be more than quarterly meetings.
Excuse me, this is Chris. When did that happen? Because I've been involved with EPAC for a number of years on and off for Tucson Audubon, and we used to meet more often, and we used to actually produce products and resolutions, and we combined knowledge and made recommendations. It was very interactive, and I was not aware that there was ever a vote to change it. And the bylaws don't reflect that. So why can we not meet more often?
Well, good question. So I can't speak to why things were the way they were in the past. So I can only speak to the committee fact sheet, and the committee fact sheet says that we meet quarterly. So that being said, subcommittees can be utilized. We just mentioned an opportunity that her subcommittee is going to meet, and so we can utilize those to cover specific topics. But all I can say is it's a quarterly group. We can pull things together for specific topics if we need to. And that is just administrative.
But my question is, when EPAC was founded, when this whole thing started, EPAC met once a month. And we're talking now about changing our bylaws to reflect 6 times a month. We've never changed anything to reflect a year, pardon me. We've never, ever changed anything to reflect mandatory 4 times a year. That's never happened. The committee, EPAC, has never, nothing has come forward from any of the managers of PAG to suggest changing that. We've not been approached, and the jurisdictions have a right to be represented as well as the public in making those decisions. So I'm very curious how this was made without our input and without appropriate changes to our bylaws.
And if I may propose a suggested solution here, because I hear you, Chris, and I can't obviously answer that question. My understanding is that any changes that we make now need to be approved by the executive director of PAG, even though we're changing that closer. So my proposal, which hopefully will work with the committee and PAG staff, is, I'm looking at the bylaws that say we meet the first Friday of every month. And I'm also looking at the next part there that says special meeting shall be called as needed by the EPAC chair. I'm the EPAC chair. So my proposal would be that we shoot for 6 meetings a year to be scheduled well in advance, that we do whatever we need to do within PAG's internal machinations to get sign off from PAG's executive director. I don't know why this would be a problem if we're able to get this space. I think it's very clear that we can't cover what we want to cover in 4 meetings. And I think that it's very clear from what we've seen here that so many of our issues are so interactive and intersectional with our other issues that sequestering everything into more frequent subcommittee meetings, which I'm also supportive of, is not going to be a solution. So I would like to be able to talk to PAG staff after this meeting to coordinate a schedule that works for folks, that has a regularly laid out in advance 6 meetings. I do think it's a problem that our bylaws say something that we're not doing, and I think we need to address that. But I am not suggesting that we go back to a meeting a month, because that seems insane. So if everybody can please just, stay tuned for further information. If you have specific concerns or ideas about how many meetings you think we need to have, 6 is too many for you, 6 is too few for you, you really, really, really think we need to observe the bylaws until we change them, please email us so we can look at all of that, and we will aim for a meeting in about 2 months from now, because that would keep us on a 6 meetings a year schedule. But we will let you know, and we cannot give you any dates yet. Does that sound reasonable to folks?
I appreciate your efforts, Madam Chair, and I thank you.
Thank you, previous Madam Vice Chair.
And I would agree, Madam Chair, that we have clearly, with all the suggested agenda items, we have a lot to discuss in order to ensure that these environmental issues are addressed on a regional scale. And 4 meetings is absolutely not enough. And if we need to go up the chain to the regional council, I would like to know how to do that in order to address that, because this committee is specifically asking for that. And this committee should be the one that decides that.
I would like us to be able to adjourn, because I'd like to say that I got us through in the time frame. Does anybody have anything that needs to come out now that can't come out in an email?
Yeah, and you can blame me. Y'all can blame me.
Need.
I just wanted to provide the staff, a staff perspective, that to make action, you might need to have an action item. If that's what you're asking about, you're asking for the means of sending messages up the chain. At each meeting. But something to look into. But also, we have been able to, as staff, shift from quarterly to, this is going to be astounding, but 4 times a year, because quarterly puts us in balance with other meetings, and sometimes we have to have our meeting on time for the message to go up then to management and regional council before they have their summer hiatus. So we do typically have that flexibility to, you could meet 3 times in a row if you feel like you need a continuous conversation. So that really helps, like with Dustin meeting his deadlines for the greenhouse gas emissions and that kind of thing. So I heard you say meeting in a month and a half, sorry, 2 months. So as long as that works for Dustin to get through air and then back to EPAC on time, I think that's a great idea. Something we might have to look into. Also, this group, I know you talked a lot about action items. if you have presentations that you want to share yourself, we have always encouraged you to share about your own projects and programs. Like I heard you sharing information that was new to people here about, make sure you use the word active modes, that you aren't implying that it's not somebody's primary mode. So, we've traditionally considered if you want feedback on a project or you need collaborators or you have recommendations, like Nicole showed many models today that could be adopted by others. Those are traditionally our actions that we've had that we can kind of put into our framework as well. I guess that's all. I wanted to make sure you have that context.
All right, thank you, Mead. So the conversation again does not end here. Please email us ideas, questions, thoughts, or concerns. We will figure out how to best schedule things. We'll figure out how to best disseminate information in a way that pause and addresses all of our issues. I think everybody has all of our email addresses. If not, well, you have to have somebody's email address. So thank you all so much. And it is 11:25. We are adjourned. Yeah.
Thank you.